Star Trek is dead? So I, like many fans, was initiated into Star Trek by Star Trek TNG back in Australia, the 1990s, because that's when it came out, but 87. I grew up with it. I loved it. It was amazing. I thought it was the best thing ever. And a lot of fans did it. Action figures were out. It was hugely popular. Sets, toys, merchandise, everywhere. Deep Space Nine came along and it was different, and I didn't really like it as a kid, but love it as an adult. Voyager, Enterprise. The TNG era was a verifiable hit. Maybe not Enterprise. But overall, the franchise was doing really, really well. And then filtered into, I would say, obscurity by the time Star Trek Nemesis came out in the 4th season of Enterprise. UPN didn't market it, didn't know where it was, things were changing. Nemesis was not a hit at the box office. I think it barely broke even. No, I don't think it actually broke even at all. I think it was a failure. So Star Trek was considered dead. So they decided, and it was a big decision by Paramount really, to give Star Trek an injection of modernism. And that was Star Trek 2009, which... Overall, I love Star Trek 2009. I get it. The only thing I didn't like was the jumping ranks super fast thing, which was just stupid. But I get that it was Star Trek injected with a good helping of Star Wars. And that's very clear. Like, you can watch 1,000,001 videos about the very strong similarities between Star Trek 2009 and the original Star Wars. Now, by the time we got to Star Trek Beyond, which is the third in the what's now dubbed the Kelvin timeline films, that had waned a little bit. Beyond sort of barely made back its money. So what we had is nothing. But we did have the promise of a new series, Star Trek Discovery. And it boded to be one of the most original, different Star Treks. The next generation for this generation. And what it did was piss off the oldies. Whenever I speak to, and this is in Australia, I don't know about America, but whenever I speak to people, there's one of two things. Well, there's 3 entry points for Star Trek. There is TNG, which is people my age, or if you talk to people, my age or in their 30s, generally they will say TNG is what I saw. Gay people saw Voyager. Gays love strong women. But the other entry points were Star Trek 2009 and Star Trek Discovery. Now, Star Trek 2009 got a lot of new people into the Star Trek universe. Star Trek Discovery got a lot of people into the universe as well, but they were considerably young, like they're between 18 and 25, which is a good demographic. Saying Discovery wasn't a success is just being lazy. Rob Kazinsky basically said that
I spoke to Alex and I spoke to Tunde, and they explained to me that Star Trek is dying. The world, it's always been a dedicated group, and that dedicated group is aging. And we are going to lose Star Trek if we don't bring in new fans, new eyes, and new ways of getting people to love the things that we love.
Which I have to agree with him. Most fans around my age who are sitting on Facebook, well, not most fans, I want to say a good chunk of the fan base, very much just wants a repeat of TNG. You can tell that by the constant calls for Star Trek Legacy and the Next Generation crew coming back in Picard Season 3. It was the best season of Picard. But was it? Like, everything that has been successful within Star Trek, and Picard's a clear example of this. Patrick Stewart came into Picard and wanted to do something new and different, with very few or links to the past that are earned. And he did in season 1, the only people we had from TNG were Riker and Troy and Data. And they were dealing with the fallout from Nemesis the last time we'd seen Picard. We were meeting up with Riker and Troy because Riker was his best friend. It made sense within the narrative that Picard would turn to these people, but also feel like a bit of a burden for asking for help, because Picard's very prideful. then we got Picard season 2, and there was an injection of nostalgia, but they tried something new, taking elements from TOS, from TNG, and really trying something new. And what we got for those first 2 seasons was, oh, it's slow and boring, I don't like it, which is it's a new show. It's establishing itself. It's growing. It's trying to find out what works and what doesn't work. Season 2 felt like it had a showrunner for like a chunk of the series and then a different showrunner for another chunk of the series, and they mashed it together. I liked season 2. I thought season 2 was fun. I thought it took some really good elements. I think that building of the relationship with Laris was really good for Picard. His character growth was central to season 1 and season 2. But then we get to season 3, and it's very clear in season 3 that Alex Kurtzman took a step back, Michael Chabon had buggered off, and we get Terry Matalas. Now, some fans you speak to will say Terry Matalas is the guy who saved Star Trek Picard. I personally would say he's the guy who took Picard and made it into TNG season 8 and stole every other story beat. And that's essentially every element to season 3 of Star Trek Picard was designed to hit the nostalgia point of the older fans, the TNG fans, the ones who are still around, but they're all in their 40s now. Now, when you look at Discovery, even though I would say Discovery is the most non-referential version of Star Trek in the new series, non-referential. It still had links to TOS and TNG, obviously with Memento Mori linking back to the Cage, Season 5 linking back to the chase in TNG, Unification 3 linking back to Unification 1 and 2. It had elements of the story that linked back to TNG. And what you see here is what I feel you see here, and you might feel different in the comments, is that the Star Trek franchise, to remain successful, is trying to appeal to its core audience. Sort of the Rise of Skywalker problem, but set across all of the series. Instead of taking, which I think you can do, taking ideas from previous series and continuing the story or continuing the journey, a lot of the times it just feels like pointless nostalgia bait. An example being Picard season 3, which takes the Dominion from Deep Space Nine. We get all the TNG crew back. We get references to the original series Voyager, Deep Space Nine. We get music cues from them. It's essentially a nostalgic season. When we're talking about The Chase, which is a different and equally interesting thing, The Chase was an episode in TNG talking about forebearers. We go to Discovery, and they take on that story and progress it further. Now we get some excellent visuals, some excellent thought-provoking stuff, bigger questions being asked. Very Gene Roddenberry, the future, and there's a cat playing with a ball and it's annoying me. But we're progressing the story. With even Discovery Season 4, we get the 10C, which is a giant aliens outside the galaxy, destroying things inside the galaxy because they don't realize that these are sentient beings, which is 100% a Gene Roddenberry idea. It's just this really weird conglomerate. The reason that Star Trek Discovery was popular is because of the older fans who like growth and change and things growing up, and also the younger fans loving that futuristic, optimistic version of the future, which Discovery took literally 1 season to become. The first season, a little dark Klingon war, little negative mirror universe. Season 2, we introduced Pike, and it is positive and heartwarming version of the future from pretty much then on. Obviously, there's bad guys have to fight, world-ending cliffhangers, which did get a bit dry by season 3. When you look at something like Strange New Worlds, which is a positive version of the future, but once again, doesn't delve into anything too deeply. The biggest thing that Strange New Worlds does is has an over half female cast. It's the first show to really sort of delve into having more women than men, which is funny because Pike in the original pilot was pretty sexist. He was. Get over it. And I feel like the problem that we have with the franchise now, and the reason that he said this, and Rob Kazinsky is very, very knowledgeable about Star Trek. It's very clear that Robert Kazinsky is really, really knowledgeable about Star Trek. And it's very clear that what he is saying in this interview is that Star Trek is dead from a marketing point of view. You can't make money off merchandise if the only merchandise you can release is prohibitively expensive to kids and young audiences. But also, you can't not make merchandise because you want to make money. And it's great. Like, I get what he's saying, which is Star Trek has to broaden its appeal. It has to do something different. You can't just shove a crew on a ship and send them out in space, because that's what happened with the TNG era. Every series other than Deep Space Nine, TNG, Voyager, and Enterprise were a crew on a ship going out into space. Even Deep Space Nine took a different turn. And it's the show, I feel, that impacts this new era the most, because they're trying to do something different, something in different settings with different ideas and different groups. So when you play it safe, like with Strange New Worlds, it's, I don't know how to put it. They don't talk about anything. Like, you got the one episode with Una where it talks about sort of refugee status and racism and stuff like that. You get like a little bit of nods, but they're nothing bigger than what TNG used to do. They're nothing more impressive, nothing moving forward. I would say Prodigy is also a great example of season 1 takes a lot of little references, and to be honest, season 1's not my favorite, but season 2 takes elements from TNG, the Travelers, Wesley Crusher, even Picard at the end, and makes a new story, an interesting story. I am a little over multiverse stories, and makes it grow. But Prodigy didn't appeal to those older fans. So they just didn't give it a chance. So you had them complaining. Lower Decks, which appeals to a broader audience, the reason it doesn't go there is because the amount of people who are on Facebook who go, I don't like the animation. I don't like the animation style. You can't expect Star Trek to grow if you can't accept change within the format. Something that's approaching 60 years old, 63, 50, 52, 53. You can't expect something that's been on that long and been producing that long not to change. And that's what Robert Kazinsky is really saying in this interview. He's saying that you have to allow for change and for growth, and not every Star Trek product that they release in the future is going to be dedicated to older fans of the franchise. And it's very clear in Section 31, there is minimal reference to any other Star Trek. Other than Section 31 itself and a few little tiny nods here and there, Section 31 is very different Star Trek. Michelle Yeoh, being an Academy Award-winning actress in a hit film or hit films, brings a popular audience to the movie. And what they want is to introduce people to something in Star Trek that they would find interesting, so they come back for more. So I feel like Section 31 was geared more to a casual audience. So that means influences like Guardians of the Galaxy, influences like Mission Impossible, are going to be things that very much impact the general audience's perception of Star Trek. Now, I don't think Star Trek is dead. I think that there's a fan base problem. And I think it's the same with Star Wars. I think it's the same with Doctor Who. Your fan base has grown up. And actually, do you know what? It's a worldwide... If this cat keeps playing with this light, I'm going to have to cut his balls off. It's a fan base problem. All of these fans, the ones you see vocally complaining, and it's not all the fans, all these ones vocally complaining are very much complaining because they're not getting that same feeling they got when they were kids or teenagers to the content that they are seeing. And that is literally it. the level, and it's the same with voting in politics. People are afraid of change and of growth, so they vote for people who represent how things were in the past. It's a really, everyone, it feels to me, is living in a nostalgia bubble, which has only really come about in the last 20 years because what have we got? All of these people found success in monetizing anything that had been produced before. So we get things like the Get Smart movie, we get Mission Impossible film after Mission Impossible film, we get Star Wars film and TV series after Star Wars film and TV series, constantly trying to appeal to that nostalgia, to have that base audience and build upon it. But you're creating a bubble of nostalgia that you have to have watched all of these previous things to watch these new things. Now, it's the one thing the TNG era didn't start doing until Enterprise, and Enterprise died. And Enterprise was a good show. It only found its feet when it started doing things new or started expanding the storyline. When it was just a ship traveling around the galaxy with the occasional reference to a race or culture, it wasn't doing that great. Even they tried dropping the name Star Trek from the title, and it's genuinely, I feel, a problem with a lot of legacy media, particularly like even the Marvel universe is having this problem at the moment. The Star Wars universe having this problem. These are tentpole franchises. Star Trek is always, and I agree with Rob Kazinsky, on the fringe. It's never been. Its only time mainstream successful was TNG. And even then, that was only for about 5 years. I think Star Trek 2009 really reinvigorated the franchise for a little while, and I think Discovery really did too. But the problem is the fans, after Discovery being so wildly unique compared to what they'd seen before, kept asking for old shit. Or things to come back, or styles to come back, and you can't hold a franchise stagnant, because then you're not creating new fans. You're just adhering to old fans who are getting older and are going to like less and less, because if you change anything, there's a problem. And I really want to thank Sean Ferrick and Trek Culture for like showing this interview, because Rob Kazinsky, I'm going to murder this kitten. Hey, stop it! Because Rob Kazinsky was honest in this, I suppose because he's dead in the Section Worth 31 movie, spoilers, he can talk about it once, but him talking honestly about the Star Trek franchise and about how it feels to work on it and how what he's trying to do, which is broaden the Star Trek universe, I think that him being that honest really forces us to face it. And the toxic fandom, the pure toxic fandom is what's killing Star Trek. You can't go into every project expecting it to be exactly what you want it to be. You need to go in and go, this is a new project. If it has some stuff in it, it's fun. If it doesn't, that's okay. It's its own thing. And especially with Section 31, which was very much its own thing, trying to do something new in a slightly different genre, trying to be different. I think that while I think it was very rushed and felt very much like a pilot, it was new and fresh and different for the Star Trek universe. Do I think Star Trek is dead? I don't think it is yet, but I think it will be. With the way some of these toxic fans are going, it's going to get to the point where you either got to fight against the. I'm going to fucking murder you. You got to fight against people's want of nostalgia and just go for something new. Try and make good TV and ignore those fans. Because to be honest, I'm a Star Trek fan through and through. As long as you make good Star Trek that holds up to the IDIC and tries its best, then I'm going to watch. And that's why I like Discovery. That's why I like all of Star Trek and I give all of it a chance. Some I like better than others, but I'm open to new and great Star Trek. So in conclusion, is Star Trek dead? I don't think so yet. But I think those toxic fans either need to be expelled from the fandom, or they just need to learn that people like different things and younger people like different things than they do, which is hard for old people to understand. And look, teenagers annoy me shitless, but I don't sit on a train and go, oh, those teenagers are being loud and they're annoying me shitless. I go, they're young and they're having fun. And that's what these new shows are. They're young and they're trying to figure out their own path and do something new and different. And unfortunately, the money is within nostalgia, so they have sometimes fall to the toxic fans and just do this repeat copying bullcrap. Anyways, I could rant on for hours about this, but thank you for watching. I have been TrekTrav. This has been TrekTrav. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow or another day for the Star Trek Voyager Season 2 premiere video.